What is up, guys? Welcome back to Inside Out Precision. Thanks for watching this video today. Today's gonna be on broadheads. Probably one of the most common questions I get is, what's your favorite broadhead? What is the best broadhead? The second question is very, very hard to answer. In terms of what makes a broadhead good, you know, for me, it comes down to flight characteristics, which usually comes down to more the tune of the bow than the broadhead itself. What I look for is sharp, durable, and one that flies well. So I've got a bunch of different broadheads here today, mechanicals, fixed blades, single blades, and I'm gonna go over which ones I like. You know, this is based mostly on personal experience and then working at the shop here, seeing, you know, people come in with all kinds of different broadheads, and the ones that we tend to hear performing the best. We see a lot of pictures, we hear a lot of stories. Here at the shop, you know, we don't carry a huge selection of different ones. We kind of go all in on the ones that are proven, both with the people that work here and with customers. So we're gonna start with mechanicals or expandables. Here in Oregon, it was not legal to shoot them until 2019. So when they became legalized, none of us had any experience with them other than shooting like turkeys with them. And I mean, you can pretty much, you know, tape a razor blade to an arrow and kill a turkey. So the owner, Wayne, reached out to a lot of his friends around the nation, you know, at different pro shops, because pretty much every state at the time besides Washington, Oregon, and Idaho, they were legal in. One name kept popping up, and that was Grim Reaper. So I've got this display here. This is actually one that they sent us. They've got a bunch of different heads, fixed blades and expandables. All of them, and from what we've seen, are great. Personally, I have been shooting the Pro 3. So it's a 3-blade. It's only got 1 5/8 inch cut from like blade to blade here, but the overall cutting diameter is like 2.1 or, you know, 2.3 inches or something. Everybody knows that mechanicals leave bigger holes. The hate that mechanicals get is that people say they don't penetrate very well, and on quartered shots you get really bad deflections. Grim Reaper are engineered completely differently than any other mechanical on the market, and I'm going to show you the differences now. So this is one of the most popular heads on the market. That's a Rage no collar. Two things you'll notice when I hold these up. So notice how much longer the point is before it hits the blades on the Grim Reaper versus the Rage here. That has partly to do with how the blades deploy, but what that also does is on deflecting shots, it makes sure that this harpoon point gets completely in the hide before the blades expand. And then it's incredibly sharp. Like, this is the demo. You know, we've had this thing up here forever, and I can still drop this and it sticks in that wood. You know, if I try to do that with the Rage, it falls over every time. When these are new, you can drop it in this wood and almost pick up this display with them. So they're really sharp, and then the biggest difference here is how the blades deploy. So on a Rage and almost every other mechanical on the market, they're gonna have either a band that holds the blades in, or in this case, you know, on the Rage, these kind of clip in like so. And when you shoot, in order for the blades to deploy, these little wings have to hit the hide, and that's what opens the blade up. Now, cool technology, because, you know, you don't have the stupid little O-ring that can break and then your blades are flopping around. But the problem is when you get like a quartering away or a quartering 2 shot. Now, obviously, I'm not, you know, people are gonna say, oh, you should only be taking broadside shots. Personally, my favorite shot there is a slightly quartered away shot. You can actually get away with a pretty steep quartered away shot. And on an animal, you know, if I shoot this head and one of those little wings hits first, it's gonna deflect that arrow. And I've seen you know, just watching hunting videos over the years, I have seen so many shots on a quartering away animal where that arrow hits and goes plunk like this. So you lose a ton of penetration with that, as well as when this relies these blades hitting the hide to open. So that takes force, which takes away momentum, which decreases penetration. So it's kind of a double negative, or, well, you know, you're getting dinged twice there. You're losing penetration on deflection, as well as the force it takes to open these blades. The Grim Reaper, so these blades when they're down like this, when you snap them back up, you hear them kind of click in. So there's actually a spring in the ferrule of this head, and it goes all the way right up to where you see that kind of color change right here. And they snap in good. Like I can hit this on my hand and like they're not gonna open. You can put them in your quiver, they're not gonna open. When this comes out of a bow moving fast enough, as soon as that tip strikes the hide, the spring that keeps these blades in compresses and it deploys the blades. So by the time the blades get to the hide, it is completely open. So you're not losing nearly as much penetration with the blades hitting the hide. And on top of that, because that point is so much longer, on quartering shots, you know, if you come in on a hard quartering shot, again, as soon as that tip strikes, that blade deploys and you do not get any deflection with these. The owner here, you know, when he was testing these out, he went up to Alaska, and you can shoot like 3 deer on a tag up there. And he purposely took, you know, a sharp quartering shot. It was close, it was like, you know, 30 yards, but he took a really sharp quartering shot and that arrow never changed course. Whereas, you know, he shot like what was it? One of the Rage hypodermics out one of them. And he said the angle that the arrow hit the deer versus the way the arrow was actually sticking in the deer was completely different. It's like that arrow hit and turned and basically did like a right angle. So I really, really like these Grim Reapers. Now I know there's a lot of people that are gonna say, well, I shot these and every deer's died or in sight, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure that's the case, but I hear a lot of horror stories with other mechanical heads. You know, we were honestly really skeptical about shooting these, especially at elk. Like everybody says, never shoot a mechanical at elk. Well, we have a booklet full of pictures of dead elk with these. And the benefit of a mechanical is that they do so much devastation and so much damage to the animal. A guy was in here last year, he had a video of him shooting a bull at 30 yards and he just absolutely laced the thing, double lung. And my theory is that when you hit him, especially where you're supposed to, like in the lungs, it leaves such a big hole so quickly, it almost like their lungs just like collapse. It's like it creates a vacuum. Because you can see this bull, it takes like 3 steps and you can see it like trying to fill its lungs up. It just couldn't, and it takes 5 more steps and falls over dead. And ironically, you know, their whole motto is like, watch them drop. So if you're shooting anywhere between, you know, 65 and 70 pounds and have a 27-inch draw length and over, these are gonna work really well. I would not recommend these for low poundage, short draw length. They do take more horsepower than like a fixed blade because those blades do have to open. There's more surface area of the blade going through the animal. So if I was only shooting like, you know, 40, 50 pounds, I would not recommend these. But they've got a full lineup of stuff there. So I really like the Grim Reapers and the mechanicals. Like I said, not all mechanicals are created equally, and that's kind of a blanket statement for broadheads in general. You know, there's good quality and there's bad quality. There's a ton of gimmicks on the market, you know, stuff that looks really nasty and like badass, and then all the blades just fall apart as soon as you hit something. So now we're gonna move on to the fixed blades. So there's probably more fixed blades than almost anything else on the market, and I think there's probably even less good ones than mechanicals. My go-to has always been the QAD Exodus. This is one of the sharpest, toughest heads on the market. I shot these for a lot of years, killed animals with them, never had an issue. I mean, your arrow doesn't even check up going through a bull with these. You know, they're going to hold up better and be tougher. Like if you hit a rib or a shoulder blade, these are going to give you a little bit better penetration than say a mechanical. Now what you sacrifice with that is you have a little bit smaller hole for blood trails. They still leave good holes, but the blade retention on these things is absolutely awesome. And in fact, you know, they sent us this little display here. This is not lightweight steel. In fact, it says what it is right here. It's number 304 brushed stainless, 20 gauge, cold work, heat treated, Rockwell B80 hardness. I don't know whatever that means, but it sounds like it's tough stuff. I mean, it's not like, this isn't like flimsy tin. This is the actual broadhead that they shot through it 6 times. And I mean, that didn't just like make a dent. That thing went all the way through it. You compare that to, so this is the Grim Reaper Carnivore. You know, this is a mechanical. Now Wayne shot this propane tank with it. He did hit it kind of right on the seam here. but even that head held up really well for mechanical. He did the same thing with the Rage, and the Rage literally just like fell to pieces. So for mechanical, that's a tough head, but I guarantee it would not hold up through this like this QAD Exodus did. The other thing I like about this head is it's got a very short ferrule. So the point from, you know, where it screws into the arrow to the point. What that's gonna help with is flight. The longer the ferrule on a broadhead, the more those blades, you know, if that arrow comes out a little crooked, the more that head is gonna catch wind and play in one direction or the other. You know, I shot the Muzzy Trocar for a long time as well. Great head, flew really well, but the blades are super flimsy on it. They're 20 thousandths thickness. These are 40 thousandths thickness. The chisel point on this is really big, and it's sharp too. And if you hit bone, it cracks that bone. Like I shot a cow elk with this head, I don't know, it had to have been 7 or 8 years ago now. Again, quartering away shot, it went in right behind her back rib, hit her back shoulder, and completely broke her shoulder. I could not believe how well that head penetrated. Another fixed blade that I really like, again, back to the Grim Reaper, you know, this is their Hades Pro. It's got that really sharp chisel point on it, good blade retention, and that's something that I look for in a fixed blade is, you know, if I hit bones or even just the hide. I mean, I've seen pictures of stuff where, you know, the blades are literally stuck in the hide and the rest of the arrow went in like 6 inches in an animal. And it killed it, but like it was dead luck. You're never gonna lose a blade out of these. So I really like that head. Anybody can shoot a fixed blade. Low poundage, high poundage. It's a do-it-all head for just about anybody. From there, what we're gonna move on to is what I call like single blades or cut-on contact blades. This would be something like these Magnus, these buzz cut stingers here. We sell a lot of these to youth. So, you know, kids that are, 12, 13, 14 years old, they're pulling just over the legal limit. So maybe, 42 to 45 pounds. They have a 24-inch draw length, 25-inch draw length. This is basically like pushing a knife through something. So, they don't have a chisel point like the Exodus. It's kind of hard to see in the package there, but that, the edge comes all the way to the point on both sides. And these, in terms of penetration, these are really hard to beat. There's not much surface area there. The whole thing is a blade. And because of the profile of them, like I said, it's like poking a knife through something. The downside to these, not very good blood trails. And I know people have probably had really good blood trails with these, but a majority of the time, you better have good tracking skills because the blood is not gonna be there. Wayne's daughter, Savannah, she shot, actually one of the bucks hanging behind me here, 3 years ago. She had a 23-inch draw length pulling 40 some, like just over 40 pounds. She absolutely pinwheeled that buck, like top of the heart, both lungs, and it was in the snow. And Wayne has a video of the blood trail, and it's like, I mean, you can see blood, but it's just droplets compared to what, something like this would do. But with that low poundage and low draw weight, you need something that starts slicing. It takes no horsepower to push it through the hide. It just cuts right through and is gonna give you a really good penetration. If you're shooting like traditional stuff, these are great heads. Another really popular one that we sell is the Wasp, and it's a very similar head. It's got a little bit bigger bleeder blades than the Exodus. But again, it's that cut on contact, razor sharp, super tough head. Where these are gonna get you in trouble is if you're shooting a bow with high speed. When I say that, I would say probably anything over 250, 260 feet a second, because that blade is so big and it's so long here. I've noticed that, when guys are shooting 270, 280, 290 feet a second, they get really, really squirrely. And they're also pretty loud because of these vents in the blades. So I wouldn't really recommend these for high speed compound bows, but for any sort of traditional or low poundage, low draw weight bows, these are an excellent, excellent option. The last one that I want to talk about is, and there's a few companies making these, it's a hybrid. So this is literally, Grim Reaper makes this one. It's called the Hybrid Pro. And it is literally a single fixed blade with 2 expandables that open. This is gonna open the same way that their mechanicals do in terms of the spring system that holds it in. But if you're worried about penetration, like let's say you're kind of right on the bubble for a mechanical, and you're pulling like 55, 58 pounds, you've got a 26-inch draw length, this is gonna get you great penetration and leave massive blood trails. Wayne's wife, Lisa, I think she's shot 2 bulls with this, 2 antelope with this, and a buck with this, and she'll hate me for saying this, some of them were kind of marginal shots and they still hardly didn't go anywhere. Again, the benefit of the mechanical when you've got this giant cutting diameter is that you have a much better chance of nicking something vital as that passes through the animal, as well as just blood loss. You know, you open a hole up that big through an animal versus that big through an animal, more blood's gonna come out of it, animal dies faster. So, like I said, I'm not saying that all these broadheads are the best on the market, okay? Like, I know there's a lot of guys that have shot a lot of stuff with other heads, had different experiences than I've had with, you know, these different styles, but just after, you know, 7 years of being in here and seeing pictures and listening to stories and using some of these products, you know, myself, all the stuff I just talked about seems to be the general, a general trend in these heads. So, you know, if you have any questions on this, like, I know there's a lot of people that are kind of in that no man's land of like, do I have enough horsepower to run a mechanical? The biggest one we get is like, hey, I'm going elk hunting and my guide said absolutely no mechanical heads. You know, you have to run a fixed blade head. And I would tend to agree with that unless it's a Grim Reaper. I think the Grim Reapers are truly like in a category of their own. I don't know if they have a patent on that thing, but on that spring retention system, but I don't know anybody else doing it. And it, you know, it's not a gimmick, like it works extremely, extremely well. So, thanks for watching today, guys. Like I said, if you have any questions, please give me a shout out. I've killed animals with the Grim Reapers. I've killed animals with the QAD. I can give you a little more on my experience, you know, if you want to get more into detail about things. But yeah, there's a lot of broadheads on the market. It can kind of make your head spin. Like if you're looking through the Cabela's catalog at the broadhead section, it's like pages and pages and pages of broadheads. But like I said, there's a lot of gimmicks out there. On top of that, these are made in the USA. QAD and these Grim Reapers are made in the USA, so that's always a plus. But thanks for watching today, guys. Remember, as usual, precision is a decision. Keep them in the middle, and I'll see you on the range.